So in this segment, we're going to be discussing Starmer and the Labour Party kind of constantly playing towards Nigel Farage and using the language that Farage would use and kind of what the Conservative Party would use as well. So this is Pac McFadden, who's a minister at the with the government discussing immigration, and Labour keep talking about how net immigration is too high, yet won't explain what do they want to lower it to? Do they want a target, etc.? Because they keep being baited by Farage and the media. Because if you keep saying net immigration is too high, what is the correct amount of immigration in your opinion? Then that's the question people are going to come out with, and Labour can't seem to answer it.
Ignoring immigration.
No, it will be part of the plan. We'll talk about immigration when the plan is published later this week. We saw the figures published a few days ago showing...
The thing is, it's gone beyond the week and they haven't really published any plans yet, so...
very high levels of net legal migration. We know that people are also concerned about illegal migration and the boats coming across the
Okay, so there's no such thing as illegal immigration. It's people claiming asylum, talking about people crossing the channel. Most of their applications are actually granted because it's people coming from war zones. There's no safe way of entering the UK for certain people from certain countries. I wonder why that is, but the point is, the reason why people are concerned about, quote, illegal immigration is because the media and the politicians keep turning it into issues so they don't have to focus on actual social problems like the NHS winter crisis, which again is kicked off.
I know that will be part of the plan. We've increased the rate of returns since we came into office. The Prime Minister announced a new agreement with Iraq the other day, so we are taking action on that front. It is part of the plan. And we'll see more of that when we publish it.
It's not one of the formal priorities, is what I mean, and it's great to hear that there will be something firm on that. So will there be a target for the number of people that Labour...
One of the reasons why the media focuses on this so much is because there is a problem within certain people within England who hate immigrants, and so this plays them really well. So instead of journalists actually having to do hard work and understanding how the economy works and things like that, they'd rather focus on immigration, despite the fact that the country needs immigration in order to grow the economy. So despite Labour saying they wanted the fastest growth in the G7, the only way they're going to get that is through getting more people in to do the jobs that people aren't doing and fill the expertise we don't have. And despite the fact that Labour are saying that they're going to get the unemployed to work and push the sick and the disabled into more work, it's simply not going to work. We've gone through this with George Osborne. It's a dead plan.
Thinks is an acceptable level of legal migration.
No, we don't think that a numerical target has worked in the past. You might remember David Cameron had a target of bringing net migration down to the tens of thousands. That wasn't a happy experience. It didn't work. The truth is...
It didn't work because he never intended for it to work, because he understood that we needed migration for, in order to fulfill job vacancies and things like that. The thing that Labour are going to fall into is they're going to get baited into constantly being asked, well, if it's too high now, what number do you want it at? Or is it just slightly lower than what we have now? And because these guys are so bad at coming up with off-the-cuff remarks, but also actually having a comms team and being competent in how to do messaging, they're going to get hit with this constantly by Farage.
It is on legal migration. The exact numbers that you will need will depend on the ebb and flow of the economy, but whatever those numbers are, what you've also got to do is train your own workforce more. We're talking about that, and also get more people off welfare and into work. And that's why
So we've heard that one before under George Osborne.
So how will people
this week, because we've got...
How will people... Sorry to interrupt you. There's a bit of a delay on the line. How will people know whether you have delivered? Because that's the point of these mission targets this week, isn't it? So that people can understand what...
This is, within the space of about less than 6 months, really, we've gone through a sort of Labour reset. It's what governments do within about 2 years, do a reshuffle, start moving people around to kind of freshen things up a bit, optically at least. And Labour are doing a reset within about 6 months because their poll ratings are in the ground and they don't know how to recover it because they have no idea what they're doing.
Labour hopes to achieve, and at the end of the 5-year period they can say, right, okay, well, you did well on that and you didn't on that. You're right that immigration's more complicated, but how can people measure if you are successfully bringing those numbers down without a target? What else could they look to?
I think they could look to the balance between net migration and what we're doing, for example, to get more of the working age, long-term sickness people off benefits and into work. We've got a big and growing problem with this at the moment. 2.8 million people, at least a proportion of whom could work. It's not good for them to be on long-term sickness, and it's not good for the economy either.
I mean, this stuff generally is fine, trying to help people back into work that can do it, the ones that have, long COVID and things like that, where it's possible. But you've got a situation where you had Liz Kendall talking about how, they're going to go into mental health wards and try and help people with their CVs and stuff. And you're like, are you deranged? Like, imagine walking into a hospital, what are you going to do? Walk in like this and be like, here's your CV, pal. You need to fix these grammar mistakes. Like, this pure barbarism.
And the truth is, there will always be a balance between your own workforce and what you need through net migration. The country will always need some migration, but it's tripled in recent years compared to
what
where
about,
it was 7 or 8 years ago. So we're going to bring it down from there and make sure that when people come here, they make a proper contribution to
and
the
how
economy.
about
I mean, they are making a proper contribution. Like, that's just, again, this is stuff you'd hear from a bad notch. Those sorts of people, Farage, make a proper contribution. Like, if they are here and they've come here to work, which they have to do to get a work visa, to get visas and things like that, they have to work. Like, what do you mean by proper contribution, pal?
on illegal migration? Obviously, you don't.
Again, bruv, come on. There's no such thing. Like, the people seeking asylum, that's not illegal.
Don't think that anybody should arrive here illegally. Are you willing to set a target on that you will stop it altogether? How about on spending
You can't, buddy. You'd be breaking international law if you did that.
on asylum hotels, for example? £5.4 billion last year. Would you be willing to say that Labour will spend £0 on asylum hotels within the next couple of years?
That's bait. That's a straight bait question, because there's no guarantee. They don't know what's going to happen in the next few years in terms of massive refugee crises. You just had the fall of Assad. We don't know what the new Syrian government will look like. You don't know what the situation is going to be in the Middle East or in Europe. Really, you could have big refugee crises, if more countries are invaded, or if there's natural disasters and things like that. It's a very stupid question. What the kind of question she could ask is, what are Labour going to do to mitigate the need for things like the hotels being used? Are you going to increase the amount of people processing claims and things like that, so then there wouldn't be a need for as much hotel use? But trying to say, oh, you're going to get it down to £0, that's bait.
Well, I'd like to get to a point where we didn't need these hotels because I have them in my own constituency in Wolverhampton and many other parts of the country. People don't want to see a hotel in the centre of town used for these purposes. So
I mean, realistically, how do people know what they're being used for unless they're being told specifically that, oh yeah, this place is housing refugees? Like, how do people know? Unless you're going to see a bunch of people from the Middle East or from Asia or from Africa and assume they're refugees, how else are people going to know unless they're told? Really?
So our ambition is to bring that to a close. We've already
By when, Pat McFadden?
Well, as soon as we can, but we've already increased the rate of processing of applications. We're doing about 10,000 of those a month. It was about 2,000 a month. We've increased the rate of returns about 9.
Are you actually increasing the amount of work being done? Like, how many applicants are you getting per day? Because if it's 10,000, then you're not really moving the bar that far. Whereas if you're getting, if you're processing, say, 10,000 claims a day and we're receiving, say, 4,000 or 5,000, then you are actually progressing.
9,000 returns
Yeah.
this year, far more returns than were taking place in the past. So we are taking action on this. We want to bring those asylum hotels down and make sure that those hotels go back to what the community wants to see.
But you can't give people a target on that, which is interesting because you will give targets on some things, but not around immigration, which seems to be a bit more of a difficult subject for you.
I mean, again, like, setting a target is kind of dumb. Like, but the whole point is, if you're saying it's too high now, what is an acceptable level for you? That's the problem that Labour keep running into, and they can't answer the question because they're going for the Farage kind of language. Here, you got this from Sienna Rogers. talking about how Labour MPs from the new Red Wall caucus to fight Reform UK in their constituencies, they're urging the government to be more vocal on immigration, e.g. shout about its deportation figures. The problem is going to be, though, you're going to get out Nigel'd, because Nigel's going to say, look, you've reduced channel crossings by this much. I'll turn it to zero by doing this and offer the most nonsensical thing, and you're going to get outflanked by him on the right wing. I'm sure people can say I don't agree with his, I don't know, NHS privatisation policy or his tax policy, but I agree with him banning all people crossing the channel. Genuinely, like, I'm baffled. I'm baffled at some of the takes people are having here. You're going to get outdone by him. That's the problem. You don't fight a culture war on the terms of right-wingers, because they will out-culture war you, because they don't care about rules or norms or laws. They'll say whatever they want. This is a man here who said, like, all of Romania could be here by tea time. And you're just like, no, like, that's genuinely impossible. That's not saying all of Britain could be in Romania by tea time. Like, do you know how stupid a statement that is? But this is a guy who you don't want to fight on his terms. And we got Faiza Shaheen talking about this.
One of the things I really worry about is when I see Keir Starmer walking over to Nigel Farage and laughing with him, and the sort of language that we hear on immigration from Keir Starmer is that there's no one, or there's very few voices in our political system now that represent the opposite to what reform stand for. Everyone is playing into it.
She's 100% correct there. Like, in terms of immigration, the conversation around immigration, the Conservatives won, because all they talk about is, oh, net immigration is too high and whatever, rather than talking about what are the causes of immigration, like what can we do genuinely to train up more British people, which is a line Labour are taking. I don't think they're taking that line strongly enough to kind of highlight what they really are doing to train up more people in Britain, but also the fact that unemployment is still quite low in this country. And the fact that we have record vacancies. So clearly the problem isn't just training up people in Britain. The other thing is, like, geography is an issue. You know, if you're training people, I don't know, doing apprenticeships in Newcastle, and you've got job vacancies in Sussex, like, unless you're expecting those people to move down from Newcastle all the way to Sussex, it doesn't really solve the problem. So again, like, it's the language here that's the problem, and we're going to do a separate piece on Farage, because it looks like what's his face is trying to prop him up, Elon Musk, so we'll be discussing that. But it kind of disheartens me, like, we're kind of still falling for this same conversation around net immigration too high, and then you fall into the trap of, well, this is why you can't get houses and doctors' placements. And we've heard these arguments for a long time now, really amplified during the Brexit referendum. But I would love to see Labour kind of do more on this front, but they don't have the talent, they don't have the comms team, and they don't have the actual understanding to actually fight the right wingers on a culture war. And this is the kind of thing that will really enable Reform UK to do well. I saw a tweet from No Justice talking about how you're going to see certain areas basically revolve into being Reform UK, the south, parts of the south going green, and part of the kind of Tory heartlands going towards the Lib Dems, and Labour are going to get pushed out of that. The problem is, unless Starmer delivers, he's going to be in big trouble, and I don't see it happening here. And he's falling for the bait, which is, fight the right wingers on a culture war that they're always going to beat you at. It's just ridiculous. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.